Okay, let's see. Testing. I hope you can update status. Okay. Great. All right, folks, welcome. We begin. Let me quickly and shortly introduce myself. Where it is my control? Okay, let's see. Yes, my name is Alexander Orlovsky. I am CEO of this company. We are small company out of Nuremberg, Germany, Bavaria. So my company provides different types of services, mostly IT consulting, which you can see here. Let me check my audio. Yes. Okay. Then this is proof of our works: Unity 3D, Unreal, work in Java, work in C#, VPF. That's particular app you can freely and for free download in Windows Store. It's very useful app if you have job searching like activities. Then here a proof of our work in Java FX. That was interesting prototype for managing satellite service channels and then write it to the satellite receiver. That was really interesting project. And what are main topic of this day? Orlovsky Consulting GbR. We are builders. We are using source code of the open source project T2 Linux and build our own derivative from the T2 Linux. We are not affiliated with the T2 Linux developers, and we are not affiliated with the main maintainer company who actually maintains the T2 Linux. All right. Once again, Orlovsky Consulting GbR not affiliated with T2 Linux developers. So what we are actually doing? Let's speak about comparison with the other distributions. Why my company invested time and resources to actually building on derivative of T2 Linux. Well, if you think about enterprise world of Linux, you have always issues like if you sign a contract with a Linux company, you're pretty locked in most times. You can't install on those Linux distributions some older software or some special software. There are always some issues, and it's not flexible enough for some of my company clients and in general terms. So in terms, in comparison with that, T2 Linux clearly have ability to support older software and support older hardware. And even if you compare T2 Linux with the open source, there are two benefits if you use T2 Linux, because in open source, yes, it is open source, but you still have limitations of what you can actually easily install in your Linux distribution. Even if you compare T2 Linux with Debian, you clearly see that Debian is an older distribution. It has limitations in terms of release cycles, and it's clearly known that a lot of packages in Debian are abandoned. And of course, those distributions which I actually mentioned, they have greatness too, but in comparison to T2 Linux, T2 Linux have provides even more flexibility as you think. Now, lately, to compare about developers community, if you compare with Arch Linux, because Arch Linux trying to be always up to date, Linux up to date, and the community in Arch lately been to woke, and some people consider that's not so good. I just mention here because I find it a very interesting observation. And if you compare it to Linux with other distributions, you will clearly see the benefits, because Tattoo Linux actually offers a lot. And then, very reasonable question to ask, why in the hell you should try Tattoo Linux in 2026 and beyond? Well, major advantage of Tattoo Linux, it is built directly from the source code. You don't need any package manager, you just build it from the source code. What can be better than that? If you have older hardware, like, I don't know, 10 years old, or even maybe 5 years old, just old hardware, where you probably run Windows 10, Windows 7, and some other operating systems, and you just need to have up-to-date modern Linux system, which actually possible too with Tattoo Linux. And important, additionally, Tattoo Linux can be built for your given CPU architecture. So you can actually have benefits if you use optimized Tattoo Linux for your hardware. But of course, if you need to just try it out like a standard default user, I mean, just to install it, here you go. There's a link to official Tattoo Linux version. I would highly recommend to try it out before you spend your time in building. Okay, so with any distributions, there are pros and cons. I think it's just only reasonable to mention about that what is in particular case with Tattoo Linux. As I mentioned, Tattoo Linux is a source-based distribution. It would require, actually requiring a lot of knowledge of internal working of modern Linux system. If you need some customizations, you would probably put a lot of effort and time to actually achieve that. And of course, if you are on the bleeding edge, you probably would see some issues with the latest packages, because not all packages done the same. Like, just give you one example. There exists package of name Zik. It's a library, and it works only with the given LLVM packages. So there can be incompatibilities in what you try actually to build. You need to research exactly what is the best configuration of those packages. Documentation is not bad. It's clearly obvious, but for building you need information. My company, as I said earlier, we invested time and created guides which you can use, and with that guides you can actually achieve the goal of creating very robust operating system. All right, here you can find our GitHub repo, and of course, typical experience with Tattoo Linux. It takes like 1 month to handle every possible issue of Tattoo Linux, given on your hardware, given your requirements, and there are always things to improve, and we have plans for that. Okay, as always, talk is cheap. Show us your work. But before I can do and show you actual running system, I just need to mention here some things. You can always go to our official websites, and if you have any questions, just contact me from the official websites and forums of my company. Okay, let's switch back to the, let me end the presentation here. Okay, now two more fun part. As I promised that I will show clearly working system. So you see I'm running actually a build. The build was started not 11 hours ago. It was started like 2 days ago. I'm having here a pretty minimalistic system, minimalistic virtual environment, 4 GB of RAM, 6 core virtual CPU, 60 gigabyte of disk space, 60 MB virtual GPU probably, and I'm actually building Rust C package. It's a very big package, and you can see my machine is working. So it's not still image, it's actual VM which running the build. How I got to this build actually, I would go right now through the guide which I have written on my company time, and you would understand how I managed to get to this result where I'm building my own version of T2 Linux. Let me quickly switch to the guide. The guide is available on the Orlovsky Consulting .de page, and first of all, what you need, you can build T2 Linux on the virtual VM. You can build T2 Linux on real bare-bone hardware. It's up to you. And how do you do that? First of all, you need to decide what is my host operating system where I built T2 Linux. It can be Linux, it can be probably FreeBSD, it can be Windows, it doesn't matter. What is matters that you have the hardware powerful enough to crunch through the whole package and building procedure. But I suppose you have your hardware or VM and you booted a live system, which hopefully official T2 Linux live boot image, and in this image you need to build your operating system. For this you need to certain things. If we assume that you have a standard default T2 live boot Linux system, you need to get hold of the latest SVN source code, and if you wish to have even better experience for building on x86-64 platform, you can get hold of my additional configs for your vanilla T2 Linux and apply that. But it's not like, it's up to you to decide how do you build your T2 Linux. But in this tutorial, it is all connected with the configs which I provide, which you can obtain too from the official GitHub repo. Next move. So you have your SVN trunk and you have your GitHub repo which you uploaded from my page. Now you need to run a configuration for the build. But before you actually can do that, I would recommend that you will apply this file, which you can find on my GitHub repo, to your T2 trunk. There's small issue with running vanilla menu config, but it is up to yours. You can try with that, but my experience, it's always good if you have this patched file. So, and then when you have run your menu, you see here options which I preferably select. one particular note which I would recommend, you can build for your CPU, and it can be very efficient. The problem is, will it boot in VM what you have built? So maybe it is better to build first, like without additional optimization for your CPU. But that is like my recommendation currently. You can, but you need to self-decide. Does it really necessary that it's that my first build have all possible optimizations? Okay. And one particular thing which I need to mention here, I'm building without Xserver, without graphical user interface. If you need graphical user interface, you probably would have to select building packages with X, and there will be even bigger build, and it would take even more time, but I prefer to have like smaller version of Tetu Linux. But that's options which you have. So what we have spoken about, we have our configuration ready, and now we need tooling. Where is tooling? Okay, here is the tooling things. Why I'm speaking about tooling? The default Tetu Linux live image has no tooling for this particular build which I have presented. That means you need to get hold of SVN repo, as I showed earlier, but you need to install those packages in order to build your build, if you plan to have the build which I have spoken today about. And how you particularly install those like tool chain, here I need to say following, that probably you should install Python. You install Python first, then you install Perl. Nano is just if you need better editor experience, it's not important. Then you install Python GPEP 517 package, install Python installer, setup tools, then this one. Yeah, the order is somehow misplaced, it happens. And you install all the important packages, and that would allow you to build the current Tetu Linux. Additional thing, if you have like machine which is not, I don't know, like accessibility is limited, and if you have, I don't know, you bought cheap VPS, virtual private server, or use Google server, you can actually create SSH and run everything what I'm showing you here through the SSH terminal. That's totally possible too. It's maybe mostly the case. At the moment I'm running on the host that's in my virtual machine, the Tetu Linux build, and you clearly see the cores are crunching the source code, so it's building C-Lang. But that's what I have at the moment. Right now we're speaking about, so you configure your system, you have your toolchain, you applied the patches, you took my GitHub repo and manually audited it, and manually painstakingly copied into the desk files of vanilla Tetu Linux. Should you do it? It totally depends on you. You can try it to take it from my GitHub repo, and let me show you GitHub repo that you understand what I mean. So I have here configs. They're basically desk files which you can use in your Tetu Linux build. Some of them look almost like exactly copy of vanilla, and just small tidbits was changed, and other ones really refactored. It's depending on your circumstances. Maybe I would say, if you don't trust this, you can actually audit first what I have done and then apply those files if you need to. Okay, where we okay, let's see. So everything is configured. Then one honorable mentioning, you can, in some crazy situations, you like, I don't know, limitations, internet not working, your toolchain is broken and you cannot build it up. There are always reasons why something fails. I have created a so-called transplants guide, where you can take, if you have latest SVN and you boot your system with the latest T2 Linux distro, so both are at the same level, so you can actually take some parts of your host system and copy into your image. But I would not recommend that, because it can bring lately problems to you, but I mention it because it too can be done. The best way to configure T2 Linux and the build of T2 Linux is using of desk files, which describe it here. And what it goes. Okay, those things I will just merely skip. It's not so important. Important is, after you have configured your system, you download all required packages and then start actual build. And after that, you will have a build log, because I guarantee you your system won't be built at the first try. It takes just some time to understand why some packages are not building in your current situations, and you need to look up the logs. So in my case, I have this. I can clearly show you that my system running. Let me quickly shows here. Yes, it's running, maybe not so fast, but it's running. So how I would recommend, what is the reason why I am creating large build log? So I am switching to the T2 trunk, and I just need to look it up into my build log, build.log, and then pipe grep aborted. Okay, nothing. That's good. That's good sign. So if you have a bad config, that's what I need to mention too. If you have a bad config, it can happen that your build is failing and you don't know it. You need to have configure your build that everything is building as exactly as you specified. Because if one of the important package fails, it's just not only your CPU time, which you have like miraculously spent for nothing, your build won't work. You will probably boot up, but something would be broken. And it did happen to me. And don't raise issues to Rene and say, my build not working. And so it does not work like that. You need to have your build configured always fail if something broken, and don't build if some of the dependencies are not working. And that I have mentioned in this guide, which you can currently see. So in matter of building, sometimes something stuck in your system, something hang up in your system. As you clearly see, I'm running this VM only 12 hours, but I have mentioned that actual build started 2 days ago. Why this happens like that? My VM is perfect, QEMU is perfect, but I always do a lot of stuff. I have pretty powerful machine with lots and lots of core. Something happened and system stuck. It not destroy your build. You need to reboot your VM. You need to reboot your VM if your build stuck. You need to reboot your VM and go with those commands. Important. If you do clean build, you completely delete your current build. It may be efficient, but most times it's not necessary. Most times which you need to do is just to execute this command. It'll just clean up all the wreckage of the failed source code directories. And if you use full, it deletes and the cache and the build. So most times you will probably use this command. Just clean up your stuff before you continue your build. And don't forget, if you reboot your system, you need to rebuild your toolchain again. That's maybe one of the gotchas with T2 Linux. Because anytime when you reboot your machine and you need to boot up into T2 Live Linux system, you need to install all of those packages again. That's my little bit issue with that, but I'm already hardened for that, so I can easily build my toolchain again back. Of course, booting very important. So where we are? We are creating small Linux distribution. It can be 344 packages, which I built in VM. It has 357 packages. It depends. It depends how much packages you pick up. I cannot describe the dependency hell, which probably you will get through to understand which packages you need. I would just, for these particular reasons, I would advocate the usage of AI to understand which packages you really need in your system. That would actually matter. Okay, so build is happened. Now you need to create ISO. It can be tricky, but if your build had succeeded, sometimes you need to go through the build log which you created, look up if anything failed. If nothing failed, okay, that's a good sign. Then you execute where it is fdisk minus l. Okay, this command. Then you execute this command and it shows how many partitions you have in your ISO. As I mentioned earlier, if you create optimized T2 Linux for your CPU, it may not or may be boot in your VM. That's why I'm actually building more generic system, which will be released on my GitHub repo. And it is important to state following. If you optimize for the CPU, it would actually work the best on your hardware. Everything else, it depends, it can be problematic. So you have your ISO. What next? Next is a kind of install procedure. Some say it's boring, but it's not. Where it is? Okay. So the typical T2 Linux install proceeds you booting up into your system. Just hit enter button until you see prompt, and then you type install. Then comes menu, and there you have things to select how you would like to partition your disk. I just recommend to make it life your easy, and let me see, do have only 3 partitions. One for the bootloader, one is for swap, and one for the root. That's it. if you have multiple partitions, it's something different, which I would not be able to handle today, but you just need to have to do partition. Why people say maybe why I'm picking XFS instead of ext4 or ext3? It just happens I'm really like the XFS file system. That's my prefer. That's what I prefer mostly. Okay, and we have reached to the stuff. Let me see. That's you need to do if your system say if you want to format yourself per hand. It's not necessary. Let's go to more important part, which I want to handle. So now I want to talk about this big stuff which I have done in 1 month, because it took a lot of trial and errors to understand which packages need to be done, and I need to mention it. So the most memory CPU intense package is LLVM. It is actually included with the C-Lang, so it's the most the most memory intensive and CPU intensive package to build. Take many hours. And if we go to the LLVM desk, by the way, if you have questions, just post them into the chat. I would be able to answer. That's no big deal for me. And what I have done. So, as I said earlier, LLVM is very memory and CPU intensive software package, and in some cases you need to configure it to run in very minimalistic way. So here I have config, desk config, which says only 2 parallel jobs and build only for the host. There are other compiler flags which you can use if you have bigger, better hardware. But in any case, this is how I managed. Then you have growth package, very old package. I think this page file is no way to see. It was removed because I have just tried to push it to the upstream, and maybe just say so my guide and remove it because it makes no sense. Here you see the desk file. Once again, those things are just trial and error. Maybe in your case you need to do something different. I think that's pretty obvious. Then you have PCRE package, which actually very important when you need to boot your system. Here I will say you have things like commands for the build, and what have we here? Definitely disable static. So at this point, this package can be built when you use this config. glib. Oh yeah, glib. That's where I need to point your interest. The glib package. It is a really important package in terms of support of GNOME related stuff. Not UI, but really system tools. So in order to configure it, you need to use those flags in your desk files and it would build. And then happens that something fails, and sometimes you need to use manual build commands, which just build a package into your newly created build. Then there's Linux header package, which too need to be configured. Here I configure it like that. And why I'm doing this? Because vanilla upstream has not worked for me. And of course, because I've built for x86-64 platform, I have removed all of the patches, but you can leave it. At the moment, I have actually building my system without removing those patches, and as you see, it builds without any issues. All right. GCC. With GCC, it was really amazing. The switch from version 15 to version 16, actually a big step up. GCC 16 is very strict. It's even stricter than it was before. I like to say that it probably the major hurdle for all the packages which you need to build. So definitely, if you have issues, you need to try this config file. What we have here, that's complete for completeness. Okay, readline. Oh, readline is a very important package. There were issues in vanilla upstream, and you need to have symlinks. You need to have, it's actually in my first ISO, which I have released, there are some missing, two missing symlinks, and I hope that with the build which I'm actually building, I have solved those issues. So this desk file already is in my GitHub repo, and with those two commands, when package is installed, the issues should go away. Because in my recent, my last ISO, there is missing symlinks for those two files. But this happens only because I have used upstream, which did not catch that. But now I have solution for that. And if your readline if your readline actually fails, you can recover it, or at least try to recover it with a live boot system. I would speak about repair too. Stay tuned. Okay, GMP. GMP is a very memory and CPU intensive package. On some latest CPU, it can actually break your system. So warning note, GMP can break your system if you're doing wrong configuration. Here, that's why I have definitely disabled CXX, and I have definitely avoided too much optimization for this GMP package. MainDB package, okay, that's minor issue, nothing to say about. PRM, yes, PRM need to be updated in order to have successful build. Then we have what we have here. Should put it like this CC cache. Need to mention and edit out. Okay, CC cache. CC cache required some minor commands. Again, some additional flags, and that's it. Protobuf. Protobuf, as I said, in some packages you just not work. You need to attend to and improve it. So nothing to say about. Package C8 certificates, this actually builds normally, but if you have issues, you can like look it up. Sometimes you need to execute those commands. That's maybe where you need to put attention right now. Sometimes building whole image is not always error prone. You need sometimes build as a given particular package which will be included in the final build. So this command basically tell your build system, build me only just this given package, and it builds, hopefully. There exist some issues with the protobuf C, and if you try using this desk file, probably it would be built, but we're here just bypassing some rigorous strictness of GCC 16. Maybe it's already fixed, I don't know, but I still mention it. And then we have rsyslog. That was too something strange, but okay. If top build package. Some people says why you need if top. It's just monitoring tool for your network. I like to see data, how much bits and bytes gone through. So in my case, it was necessary to build this package, and by default it did not build for me, and I am using this desk file, and that's sufficient for me. Package scons. All right, that's pretty ugly, like what I experienced. It was basically, as you can clearly see, missing directories and missing install commands. So that package was a headache actually, and it fails, and then you need to build it like that. Check if your Python installer. Sometimes I find it strange in T2 Linux that it not, how should put it, you build your stuff, you think your package is included, and there is no abort issue messages. It's still not included in your system, in your image. So those commands, as I said earlier, they are really important to add when you build. Okay, package serve. What I'm fixing here? Yeah, most times it's like missing right directory, missing right path to the library. That's happened to me a lot. Then I have libzmq package. That was probably it's pretty basic. But as you see clearly, it's too required to point out where my packages are, where my libs are. Why? In config of T2 Linux, you have option move your lib packages to USR directory. It's like modern standardized way to use those libraries. So in any particular way, it may require that you do those adjustments. Okay, next init utils. I can skip that. Python cryptography. Okay, that was too interesting to see that Python have issues, especially this package, and I solved it by adding exports which would disable I was just looking the word that would disable checking of the SSL. I just trust it like that. And in many cases, you just even need to copy your resolve conf from your host to the build, and that would solve your issues with this package. All right. Python Maturian, again, sometimes you need to do like that. You copy from the host your certificates, copy to your build system, and then it just works. This step actually not more needed, but maybe for somebody who have similar issues would try it and it will work. So I just leave it here. Then we have Rust C issues again. Again, as you see, I'm trying to solve missing symlinks because all my libraries are moving to the USR lib64 because such thing is allowed in the config of the T2 Linux. Okay, GDB. This is GNU debug debugger. I'm not using actually, but I just selected because somebody need a debugger. So if your debug package builds fails, you can use this desk file. udiff. Okay, udiff is big. udiff is very big. It's very big important package. It was really brutal to me because it did created some make files which did not work for me. Let me see how I solve it. Config. Let me see. udiff systemd. All right, udiff. Where it is? Here it is. So, okay. I think it's in conf actually. Yes, in Teto Linux you have mainly two config files, conf and desk. All right. Surgical. I'm trying to remember what I have done differently. I think this part is different. So the vanilla upstream udiff, it had some issues for my build, and it was necessary just to have to figure out what exactly I need to copy, and I mean in terms of package library destinations. So as I said earlier, it was a really big issue for me, and now it works. With this config it works. Okay, then we have Python Jinja. Actually those things do not happen quite a lot, but I posted here just for notable mentions, honorable mentions. We can ignore that. Get text pretty was necessary to adjust, and you can clearly see same things. We have something wrong with the file, and I'm actually finding out in libtool, and then change something to fast install yes or fast install no. So what the most crazy about it to Linux, and especially when you build from source, it's just how you deal with automatically generated make files. Sometimes they're generated in such way that it's just not builds. Okay, libxscript. What I need to mention about that? Probably nothing. Important stuff. glibc32. As far as I know, you don't need it per default. Rene in one of his live stream on YouTube said that you need glibc32 for the Steam client. Since I don't use Steam, I don't need glibc32. I still did not figure out why is this package so important for any Linux distribution, but it works for me when I just not fewer package the better. So ncourses have some issues, and I don't use ADA. That's programming language. Why it should be enabled, I don't know. So I disable ADA. I don't need it. debus is very important because debus used by systemd, it should be always included in your build. What have we here? CPO. The CPO package do have some issues with the GCC 16, but I have managed it, adding some stuff into studio in H and just making sure that it is buildable with GCC 16. And again, the same pattern with Polkit about just where I have my libs. So In my distro, I have lib64, but I have mostly usage from the USR directory in my Linux system. Okay. Okay, what we have here? grab2. grab2, I have changed completely the desk file. And as you clearly see, there are a lot of things which need to be done differently. And I have done it, and grab2 now builds too. BDB. As I mentioned, BDB is really hard to build, and I have disabled it. And since I have disabled it, I'm not using BDB, my distribution, and it does not require it for the building, for example, like mining node. Now let's see about kernel packages. I remove those patches, but in my build I actually using it, so it's maybe optional for you. And of course, sometimes from time to time, UDIF in stage 5 not building, you need to manually push up the build of UDIF. All right, do we have something important? About kernel modules. Yes, certain kernel modules not required, but they can be disabled. So here we go. You have manual how to do that. Should you do it? It depends on you. This time where I built my build, I didn't change it. So I'm using default situation. All right, that's what I wanted to talk about desk. I know it was pretty lengthy, not always was clear and understandable, but desk files are very important. Now let's talk about more fun part. You have your Linux repair. Why? It may happen to you that you build your system, it boots, it installs, but when you try to actually physically boot your freshly new installed system, for some unknown to you reasons, it just not boot. Happens not always, but sometimes. Sometimes. Here is a free guide, and I would like to go with you and explain why it is cool to know about. First, let's assume your system does not boot. Your system does not boot. You stick live system, USB disk, or just DVD boot drive, whatever you have, boot. You get into menu, and then you have two options. I recommend first you try this. When it boots with this option, try definitely this, because it would start actually many system. And I need to mention, of course, it works only if you use systemd. If you use something different, it may not work for you. Then you just need to stick with this command. So you boot, you press button E, and you put at the end of the Linux command line one of those commands. Then it boots. If you have only server system and have issues with your X server, you can actually set to boot your system into terminal, like login prompt. That's is option, and it's useful when your X server not booting. So you go through boot menu, button, click E, you on your keyboard, put commands, boot up your build, and now what is all about. So you have booted, you're in your system, but it is a live rescue system. most times. You need to mount the stuff. I skip not necessary things which need to, where it is, where I have mount commands. Did I forgot to write here? Okay. It's part of other menu. I have it, grab custom. So you boot in your system and you need to mount device. Meaning you need to mount your EFI partition, bootloader partition, you need to mount your root partition, and you need to mount every other important partition. Okay, so you have your system mounted and you need to go into your system, you execute chroot and you in your system. So now you can do something about. So you can actually repair your system. You don't need to reinstall it. Does it always work? It depends. Sometimes better is always fresh new Linux. Okay, what we have here. And after that, after you have installed your system, you have issues. You have issues with boot. It can happen because you're trying to use EFI boot on your legacy system, or you're trying to use legacy on your EFI. It works both ways. And when you consider this, you need to know exactly which bootloader supported on your system. In modern Linux operating systems, such things already automated. In T2 Linux, you need to know exactly what bootloader you need to install. That's actually what I need to improve in my next build of the custom T2 Linux. Okay, so you have two ways to install your group, but you need to know what you choose. If you choose EFI and you are in your chroot, as I explained earlier, so meaning you boot into live system, mount your installed system, chroot in your system, and then in chroot environment you execute the group for your EFI. Here is the example, and it works every time. That works every time. It installs group loader into your boot EFI partition, then you initialize new group menu config, and that's it. And you have your group installed. And after that, I guarantee you, you can boot your system. Okay. Now, what if you have legacy system? Meaning something gone totally wrong. You install your Linux, but something gone wrong. If something gone wrong, don't panic. You can revive your system. That can be a little bit tricky, but I will explain. You have legacy system. You can install group 2 on the legacy system, but for that exactly reason, you need to create additional small partition. When you have no partitions left on your disk drive, you need to do some movements, delete your swap partition, create new swap partition, but with size which a little bit fewer, and then with a free left space on your partition, on your disk drive, sorry, you create smaller partition. Smaller partition can be up to 2 MB size, and it should have BIOS grab on flag. After that, you have 2 new partitions, one smaller swap and one new partition for BIOS. That's it. You have special partition. And you get out of parted, and you just do those commands. Group install installs bootloader into the smaller partition. It finds it automatically. You generate the menu, and that's it. That's it. You have installed legacy group 2 into your smaller partition for your older system. And then you can boot your freshly installed Linux. Me personally, I would actually, this what I have described may be considered hardcore mode of installing of bootloader for the Linux, but me actually thinking about that maybe at some point I will write a tool which after install of T2 Linux boots up and ask user, what have you? Do you have legacy system? Okay. If you have legacy, installing legacy. If you have UEFI, install UEFI. Maybe that would be the case, I don't know. But that would be quite a neat. And with that, something happens. Okay. I probably need to, okay, just, did I, donation alerts, maybe, okay. It did not show on my screen, but okay. I just saw that somebody subscribed. Now it's subscribed. Okay, it's a little bit postponed. So in with that, we actually through with basic stuff. One thing I need to mention. Last thing. Install done. Build of T2 Linux is done. What else you have to do with your system? Now I need to mention afterwards, post-install work, because it is like it is. Now you need to go to your group, and if you would like to have a writable partition, writable root partition, you need to specify in your fstab that your partition is writable, because it is per default read only, so it can be kind of strange. There are some issues with like if you need to change your password. I'm not sure about this command, may or may not appear in your case, but I'm still mentioning it, how to solve it. One important stuff I need to mention, that's definitely need to know. If you using systemd, you need to configure your network, because as always, you can configure your network during install, but in my case, I have done it afterwards. So, and we need one important thing I need to mention. T2 Linux have tool has name Stone. It does not configure network for the systemd. So that's my experience, which I have told you. Maybe in your case would be different, but okay. So my assumptions: you're running systemd, you need to configure your network, and you need to configure amount of virtual terminals, because per default it's only one. So you go to this login d conf, provide the number of your terminals which you want to see in your freshly installed system, and then you can have, I don't know, 6 more, how much you need terminals in your system. Then finally you configure your network, because till this point your network is not working till this point, and I need to pinpoint that I'm meaning the installed T2 Linux. At this point your network still not running. And what we have here, we have systemd and we want to configure it. You go to you create those loopback network file, You set up it like that. The name of your device, meaning you need to look up what current name of your Ethernet device, your network card device. You need to look it up. Clearly, it's easy to know. Just Google it. And then you copy default resolve conf. You reload the daemon of systemd. You enable per default systemd network. You enable DNS resolver. You enable additional stuff like this systemd network wait line, and then reboot, and then you have your network ready. That's it. Of course, you have, if you're using static IP addresses, you need to do additional stuff, but I'm trying to have more general case. So that is DHCP config provided. So far so good. What if you need running SSH server? I don't know. You need SSH server running on your system. Again, it depends. If you are on desktop, it's a desktop. It's different. You don't need SSH for desktop. If you're using a server, maybe it make a reason to use SSH. You set up dropbear or whatever. I presenting here dropbear. You create this file, pretty basic file. The only one thing which I would like to mention is here. Okay, here I provided the directories which you can access from your SSH. If you don't need to access those directories from your SSH, you need to remove from this config. So if you want to basically, don't know, do some, I don't know, only work in home directory, you remove all others. But I have left it like that because I need to sometimes go deeper in my system. But with this option, you make your SSH even more secure. And after that, after you have configured your SSH, you enable the service, and now it's in your system and it's stable. It restarts when something goes wrong, and you will always have SSH on your server. And you can always look up the logs. Okay, if you're like me, which prefer to use sudo and have like experience using sudo on Ubuntu, Red Hat, and other distros, you can actually enable sudo on your system, and then you will be able to not actually always use root, because root have access to everything. But who else need for full-time using root? So you can actually create normal user and assign it to the sudo, and then you will have your typical Ubuntu experience. Okay, now we have covered this, and if somebody, I don't understand how exactly, what are you talking about here? What is your like, what is a view from the, what is your view from the top? What is your view from the top? Let me see. Does it change it? It should now change it. Yeah, okay. YouTube is a little bit slower for today. So you have, what you see is representation of all those packages which I typically install and build into my custom version of Tattoo Linux. It can be different. You need to understand Tattoo Linux provides flexibility, and in your case, your graph can be quite different. But in my case, for my base system, that is all what I include in my system. That is all what I include in my custom built version of Tattoo Linux. And this is what I need to tell you about. So I'm using latest GCC 16. I'm using UDF. I'm using what about special system D, Python, CLang, CMake. And if you compare with other systems, if you compare with Ubuntu, if you compare with Arch Linux, if you compare with bigger systems, they definitely have even bigger software dependency graph. But in my case, that is everything what I need to have modern Linux operating system as a server. I repeat, as a server. If you have things like I don't know, if you plan to use Linux as a desktop, that's probably need even more packages for the X server, for the Windows managers like KDE, GNOME, XFC, and what have you. But Tattoo Linux provides all of that from the source. You can build this from the source. Let me back to my original stuff. At the moment, my system still in the build process, as I said earlier. Wrong command. My system in the build process. It's crunching CLang. It's a package of LLVM, and I plan to release it. This generic build with all of the packages which you saw today. I plan to release it onto my GitHub, and I just need to pinpoint my GitHub in the chat. If you have any questions what I'm talking about, just ask of them. The recording will stay forever on my YouTube channel, just because I would like clearly show where I am and my company are at the stage of development of custom version of Tattoo Linux. And I would like to repeat, we are not affiliated with the Tattoo Linux developers. We are not affiliated with the company of Rene. We just separate so-called entity which takes the open source code and builds our own version, our own derivative. We support endeavors of the Tattoo Linux. We praise the development of Tattoo Linux. We recommend to use vanilla version of Tattoo Linux just because it is open source. You can have own derivative. That's the nature of all things. But what I need to mention, I will release this generic build. It just takes time to build the system. I have started this build not 12 hours ago. I have started this build 2 days ago. It happens to me some build issues, but I did manage that. You need to wait, and it will be released on my GitHub. Since I'm already good in time, I will take a pause, take a quick break. If you have questions, just write them into chat. And maybe, do I have LSB here? LSB. No, I don't have LSB. Uname minus R. Let me see. Get I just want to show you which Linux host version I'm using. I did not install NeoFetch because it just takes so much resources. Okay. Let me show live host system. do I have here? Okay, no questions. Cool. Okay. Get etc os. All right. That's really cool. So you know what I'm running. The build on. And yes, and if you missed some of my information which I have presented, don't worry. The recording would be stored, saved on my YouTube channel, and that would be like my basic presentation of about how we develop and build our version of T2 Linux. Once again, always try to use default vanilla T2 Linux, but with us you can actually try different experience. We're always happy about some suggestions, improvements. We open even for commits which have been generated with the AI. One important thing about AI, you need to provide which model have you used and the name of the AI which you have used. We would audit it, and if it good commit, that will be included in the next release of the custom T2 Linux. But I will take short break and be right back. Enjoy the build of my T2 Linux version. Disable microphone. Okay, I am back. Friends, if you have questions, put them into the YouTube chat box. But I think we are already at 2 hours. We have planned 3 hours, but I don't see a feedback. So if somebody have anything to say, it will be good opportunity to say it. And as I stated earlier, the build is continuing. So this generic custom version of T2 Linux will be released as soon as build got finished. You would have finally a generic T2 Linux version, because previous version which I have released, it was made for AMD pile driver architecture, and it may or may work for you, depends on your hardware. And I'm doing this because this version, this custom version of T2 Linux would work on the VM, so it would be actually a very good version for the VPS. And let me again present the picture of packages which will be included. Let me open myself. So you will have in the final version which I'm building, you would have the latest kernel, the latest GCC, the latest bunutils, gripc, make, and you would even have included Python, systemd, dbus, C-Link, the most critical parts, even PIM, and that would be like base level system which you can use further and upon which you can build other stuff. This is like what I achieved. I have to provide a system which allow you to build upon, and that is really necessity. I have nothing against the live T2 Linux live image system, but the version of T2 Linux which I am currently building, it would be more, how I should put it, more suitable for building stuff on x86 64-bit systems. Nevertheless, if you new to T2 Linux, probably you should try the base system from vanilla, from the upstream. But I think the packages which I have selected for my custom build are really in nice spot. It clearly provides the baseline, and with that you can build upon everything which you can imagine. But I would switch back to my site, my company site. It is here. If you found this information useful to you and would like to stay connected, you can visit my site, write an email, and even we have even, actually I need to show you, we have even a special forum where it is. We presented on a lot of things. We have our social network, we have metrics chat, we have even our forum built on PHP-BB, and you can visit actually our forum. Let me click here. Let me quickly show you that. So we have a forum. it's for different type of topics, but I find it always good when I can combine all of my clients, all of interesting parties into one platform where exchange of knowledge and experience would happen. And it's really very powerful, because you not only communicate with my company, you communicate with other people which are in somehow related to my organization. And basically this is it. We have, once again, where's my company site? We have as a company a lot of services. Let me quickly at the end pinpoint that we provide workshops and trainings. Our IT services. Oop. I think this is one thing which I still need to correct. Happens. I agree. Life still throw at us some challenges. Need to correct this. But if you go to services, full list of services. Wait a second. Yes. So I need to speak about services of my company. So just briefly tell you, we have software development in Germany, front and back end development, full stack development, and again, we have even game dev consulting. We can help you to, if you want to build a computer game, we can help with design document. We can pitch you game at some Bavaria type investors. We support a lot of different game engines, and we even support custom game engines. So we have really big portfolio, not only with Linux, but with other kind of services. And I would finally say, for people who like new to the IT industry, we have information about what you should do at hackathons, because some companies provide hackathons and people just go and don't use it like I would say with a full value for them, not for the organizers of the events. So I hope what you have watched today help you to build your own Linux. And if you like and continue to willing to see more info about my company, you just go to Patreon, donate. Yes, donations are cool. I can ask for them. And with that, I think I conclude this session. Thank you all who did watched it in full length. And yeah, don't hesitate. Install Tattoo Linux today. Install not only vanilla Tattoo Linux, try out our custom Tattoo Linux version today and have a lot of fun. Thank you for watching and your interest. Until then.